Alrighty.
Hello there! Usually start out videos with "What's up sexy, I'm Lexi," but for this video I'll make it a little bit more plain. Hydration is important. So you are either watching this video for one of three reasons. One, you are the parent of an LGBT kid or adult, and you're looking for a little bit of guidance on how to navigate this understandably confusing situation. Two, you have been sent this video either by a friend or by your own LGBT kid or adult, either by request or out of the blue, and you should probably just give it a watch. Or three, you're an LGBT individual trying to decide whether or not you should send this to your parents, in case they either might need a little bit of guidance, or you really want to repair a very broken relationship. I'm not sure if I can help with the latter, but I can at least try for the former. But primarily, this video is for the parents. Hello moms, dads, uncles, aunts, caretakers, all of the other wonderful plethora of people that have brought up somebody, taken care of them, provided them food, shelter, education, everything, and are now various levels of curious to confused about your child being LGBT. My name is Lexi. I run a brand called TheLexikitty, and I totally don't rep my merch on camera. I am one person, and I have no degrees in any sort of counseling. I have no authority to offer any advice beyond me yelling at a camera and posting it on YouTube, and the list of reasons you should listen to me is probably fairly short. I do comedic product reviews and I read memes for a very large channel called MK, and that's really the only way the internet knows me. But I am a trans lesbian content creator that had a very troubled history with my parents that has now resulted in an estranged relationship where we haven't really talked substantially for 6-7 years, outside of 1 or 2 phone calls. And the thing I want to impart with this video is that that kind of thing can be avoided. So, I've abandoned my fancy sunglasses, I've abandoned my pin jacket, I've dressed down a little, not even wearing makeup, and I just want to sit down and present some information in the hopes that it will either range from help you get along with your kid a little bit better, all the way up to supporting them and making them feel extra loved. And honestly, the stuff on this side of the spectrum is so easy that if that is your true intent, you can really make a difference very quickly. I will ask for a full and fair listen. If you're coming here with any shade of hostility towards LGBT individuals, this video will not be helpful, and your relationship with your child will deteriorate. It is your kid's responsibility to tell you that they are LGBT, and it is your responsibility to figure out how best to deal with and support that situation. Any other reaction will just result in them hiding it from you. So, keeping that in mind, let's move forward. Step 1. What is LGBT? Most of you probably already know, but I'm gonna put it in every single video I make on this topic so that everyone has the same shared concept. LGBT is lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Lesbian is the sexual identity of women that like women. Gay is the sexual identity of men that like men. Bisexuals are men or women that like men or women. A bisexual woman dating a man does not mean she is not bisexual. Transgender is actually not a sexuality, it's a gender identity, which means the gender in your brain is different from the gender in your body's wibbly bits. Transgender people can choose to medically transition, but that is entirely up to them, as well as their medical candidacy for transitioning, as well as being able to, afford it. Now wait, you're probably saying, I've seen the Q behind it. Queer is an umbrella term, and I'm gonna read directly from Google here to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual and not cisgender. Now I didn't define cisgender and heterosexual, and I apologize for that. Heterosexual is what is commonly referred to as straight, man likes woman, woman likes man, and cisgender is the gender identity of being born with the same gender identity as your body. So basically, not trans. These are good terms to learn, but these are not essential for the discussion we're going to be having today. Now, before we go too far into additional sexualities and genders, I am going to tack on 2 more. I know there's a lot of letters in this acronym, and nobody expects you to memorize it immediately. Or at all. You can usually just say LGBT or LGBTQ, and nobody's gonna hate on you for that. But you will also see LGBTQIA. I is intersex. Intersex refers to individuals that are born with sexual or reproductive organs from both genders. This is kind of an umbrella term as well, but I just wanted to raise awareness of what that letter stood for. And asexual means no sexual orientation, no sex. I can still date someone and be a romantic relationship, but no sexual preference. Since those two are fairly easy to understand and perfectly valid, I'm just going to focus on LGBT today. And if you have questions about these or anything else, drop them in the comments below. So first you have to ask yourself the question, are you okay with your child being gay or lesbian or bisexual? or transgender. If you're okay with this, then you're good. If you're not okay with this, and I mean this in the most respectful and patient way possible, it's important to analyze exactly why. I think my own birth parents had a very different image of trans people than I did in my own head. I know for a fact I do not look very feminine. I know my voice is fairly deep, and that's because I do voice acting and didn't want to do any vocal training in order that could potentially damage my vocal cords. But I'm quite sure, especially my birth father, had an image of RuPaul's Drag Race every time they thought of a trans person. Know that in all cases, it's not that person is a lesbian, that's a person who happens to be lesbian. Sexual identity and gender identity has so many stereotypes around it. And just because somebody is, in my case, trans, doesn't mean that I'm about to go out and put on 5 pounds of makeup and a wig 3 feet tall. I transitioned and then continued to wear just graphic tees and jeans. Not every gay guy is super flamboyant, but every bisexual still has no idea how to sit. It's an inside joke. So make sure any preconceived notions of a gender identity or sexual identity aren't clouding your judgment as to the individual themselves and how they're going to present. The second reason I see a lot of parents not being okay with their kids being out. Extended family. Extended family can be a fun one. You can be personally okay with something, but your extended family could be or really touchy, or you could get disowned, or also. There's a guiding rule for this. Assuming a standard nuclear family structure, and I know that's assuming, and I know not all households are like this. If your kid's still at home, they're going to spend most of their time in an environment you create, or at least have a very heavy hand in influencing. And it's very important for all of their other successes in life, for them to have a good job and good grades and all of that stuff, to not be constantly stressing out about this on top of everything else that life constantly throws at every human right now. If you don't think it's prudent to tell your extended family, the reasons for that should be financial. Probably only financial. Or in cases of you think the extended family would pose some sort of danger to the kid. Remember, in all of these cases, a teenager or an adult is informing you that they are LGBT. They're not asking for your permission. They're not asking you to disseminate this information in a way that can be debated. They're informing you the same way they would inform you that they bought a house or got engaged or are having a kid. This is not a thing that's up for debate or modification on their part. Is every family situation going to be different, and are slight adjustments going to be made? Yes, of course. But if your kid's gay, they're gay. You're not gonna change that by not telling extended family, except in very dire situations. You're just kicking a can down the road, and it's not gonna help anything. Third reason I see, you don't want them to get bullied or hurt at school, particularly prominent in high schools. The world is not a kind place. Bullying does not end magically in high school, or college, or in the workplace. Don't try to protect them unless they ask for your help. Them being comfortable is more important than protecting them from things they didn't ask for help doing. Now, this doesn't apply to all situations, etc. If they ask for help, come in guns blazing to defend them. But in defending them, it should not be get back in the closet. Should and are not always the same thing, etc., etc., but you get my point. And the last reason I see, probably more than anything, you think it's a phase. Phases exist. Nobody is going to deny that. But another thing that's important to realize is that if a kid comes out to you as a parent, even if that kid is an adult, it takes a lot of courage to actually come out. This is usually not a decision taken very lightly. And the first thing they are going to scramble for is validation. And to know you still have their back. And if your first instinct is to doubt them, that validation can be hard to find or non-existent. And that can have a far more damaging effect on them being open with you in the future. Here's the thing about sexuality. You don't have to get it right the first try. I know people that have come out as gay and then realize they're actually bisexual. They just like both genders. That's okay. There isn't a national registry of sexualities, and if you get 3 strikes, you don't get to have a sexuality anymore. Phases are ways of experimentation. And everyone, well, most people, have stories of experimentation in college, etc. And as humans, it's important to experience something to make sure that it fits us properly. You don't want to create the illusion of sexuality or gender identity being a one-way cliff. I'm getting to transgender care in a minute. I'll get there. But particularly for sexuality, if you're gay, lesbian, or bisexual, it's not a one-way cliff. If you spend a year like that and then you're like, oh, I made a mistake, which is a very small percentage of people, it's fine. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. But putting up a sort of wall saying, if you're gonna do this, this is gonna be a huge deal to me personally, not to anybody else, not to extended family, to me personally, makes them really have to commit to something. And they might be fully committed. Most people are. But it makes the entire situation way more stressful than it actually has to be. Okay, so we've covered all of the things that probably aren't good ideas. Let's cover how to support your teen or adult if they're coming out. A note on trans care. There are certain drugs that can delay puberty. With transgender individuals, it is most important to delay puberty if possible, because after then, transition just gets way harder. Doesn't mean you have to fully transition, which is irreversible, but it does mean that you should at least delay puberty, which is reversible. You just go stop taking I forget what the drug name is. I'll put it up here or Google it, because I'm not a medical professional and I don't want to speak to them. Or for them, sorry. If your kid is gay, lesbian, or bi, it's so easy to support them. If they find somebody they're going to date of the same sex, don't make a big deal out of it. Just don't. Say, oh, cool. If you treat it as the most normal thing and you go about your day, that is so much more validating than you could possibly imagine. Because it lowers the temperature, it lowers the anxiety level for everything. They're just treated as their romantic partner. That's the person they're dating in high school or college. For trans people and anybody who falls outside the gender binary, if your kid is coming out as non-binary, use the pronouns. This is a bit more critical, and I'm going to outline the ideals, and I know not everything will go perfectly because this is life and the universe and nothing ever goes perfectly. As soon as possible, ask if they have a preferred name that they'd like to use. I know you may have given them their birth name. I know you spent months picking it out, and I know that you feel a personal connection to that birth name, but it no longer fits them, and it is of no fault of yours. It doesn't mean it never existed. It just means they've now shed that cocoon and have a need for a new name. They might already have one picked out. They might want to pick one out themselves, or they might actually want to involve you in the process. You might want to help them pick one out. This can be an awesome opportunity for the two of you to actually work together and start like a very validating process. The most important thing for this entire thing is validation, is for them to know you have their back no matter what. And if you sort of falter or something else in these initial steps, it's not your fault. It happens. It can be a very confusing process, especially given your exposure level to the LGBT community. But they are going to be looking for support from you. And you might be scared, you might be confused, you might have no idea what's going on, but you still should unconditionally love your kid. If you don't unconditionally love your kid, there are much larger issues here that this video will not solve. But once you have a name figured out, use it as much as you can. Also use the associated pronouns. If they ask for he, him, use he, him. If they ask for she, her, use she, her. If they ask for they, them, use they, them. Genuinely not that hard. We know you'll screw up. Correct yourself. Move on. A lot of people like myself, I get misgendered at the store all the time. And if I'm not going to see that person again, I don't have the patience or bravery to correct them. A lot of trans individuals will go after somebody who's misgendering somebody else, but we won't stick up for ourselves because we all have this sort of internalized fear and don't feel like we're worth it sometimes. It's true, it happens. That's just how society has painted trans individuals and how they have reacted. And third, if you have the means, times, and availability to do so, consider a new gender reveal party. Do the whole it's a boy thing if they're coming out as a trans male. It's cute, it's funny, it's a little bit silly, but it's such an amazing moment that you could create and such a great way to start off a very vulnerable point in their life that they are horrified to begin sometimes. Don't worry about gender therapists, don't worry about transition, all of that stuff, unless they're ready to talk about it. Just accept what's been handed to you and worry about the details falling into place over time. Not saying put it off for months and months and months, but day one or first couple of weeks, just focus on acclimating to the way they are now expressing their gender identity. Another reason I know a lot of parents get worried about is if my kid comes out as trans or whatever, or doesn't just keep it to themselves or something like that, they won't be successful in life. They won't be able to get a job. They won't be able to have a family, etc., etc., etc. I'm a trans lesbian. I started out of college with not a lot of money at all. I charged all of the furniture in my first apartment to my student credit card. I paid it all off, but it takes a while to get going. But now, I have a full-time job as a network engineer. I have a mortgage. I have a lovely and wonderful wife. I have a retirement account. I don't know how to use it or what it's doing, but I know it's there. I run my own social media channel with about 200,000 combined followers across all platforms. It even makes a tiny bit of money, not like a ton, but enough to like buy the equipment for these videos. I do voiceovers for a very prominent YouTube channel. I work around 60 hours a week between my full-time job and content creation. As I've said before, LGBT individuals are just individuals that happen to be LGBT. They're just regular people, despite the dumb stuff on the news, despite the stuff that people try to highlight all the time, despite the garbage J.K. Rowling writes, etc. So, in summary, if your child, no matter the age, is coming out to you, it can be a very vulnerable experience and they really need the validation from you. The issue is not up for debate. Gender and sexual identities are not things people pick. Believe me, it would be a lot easier to not be trans lesbian, especially in this world. And the world is hard enough of a place already. You and your child should be fighting together against the world for both of y'all's success. Not fighting against each other over silly things like who you're going to date and how you're going to look and present your gender. There are much more important things to be doing in this world. And remember, it's okay to mess up, it's okay to not know things, it's okay to Google. Your kid will understand, your kid will be patient, as long as you provide that rock-solid validation, or at least they know you have their back and that you love them unconditionally, no matter what. This video isn't going to fix every single family problem. The video that does that would be a lifetime long and never end. But I hope this serves as a gentle jumping off point, and maybe allays, some fears and dumb, misconceptions about the entire community in general. It's just, the world tends to highlight the overly dramatic, and we all come to preconceived notions based on what we see. The people that are just trying to be regular people tend to get overlooked or ignored, and most LGBT people just want to be themselves and get on living, the best life they can. Anyways, my name is TheLexikitty, but y'all can call me Lexi. If you have any questions about anything in this video, drop them in the comments, or you can email lexi@thelexikitty.com. I can't guarantee we'll get to every email, but I do have another staff member that helps me at least manage the comments, so comments are probably going to be the fastest response. Have an absolutely victorious day tomorrow, stay safe, stay awesome, make more stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for another dose of wholesome chaos. A special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, Twitch subscribers, and everyone who watches the YouTube ads. And remember, have an absolutely victorious day tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next one.